Hello everyone, welcome you all in a video lecture series related to heat and mass transfer. We are dealing with heat exchanger chapter. In the previous lecture we discussed about the LMTD method application to counterflow heat exchangers and parallel flow heat exchangers. Also we discussed the various types of equations used to solve that particular derivation. So in this particular lecture we are going to understand how to solve the problems related to various heat exchanger by using LMTD method. Okay, so here the first problem is the following data related to parallel flow heat exchanger in which air is heated by hot exhaust gases. Heat transfer per hour is equal to 1,55,450 kilojoule. Inside heat transfer coefficient is equal to 120 watt per meter square degree Celsius. Outside heat transfer coefficient is equal to 195 watt per meter square degree Celsius. Inlet and outlet temperatures of hot fluid is equal to 450 degrees Celsius and 250 degrees Celsius. Inlet and outlet temperatures of cold fluid is equal to 60 degree and 120 degrees Celsius. Inside and outside diameter of tube is equal to 50 mm and 60 mm. Calculate the length of tube required for necessary heat transfer to occur. Neglect the tube resistance. Okay, so this is the problem statement. So from the problem given we can write as the heat transfer rate is provided in a kilojoule per hour, that is 1,55,450 kilojoule per hour. So we need to convert this particular unit in a joule per second. So first of all, for converting kilojoule into joule we have to multiply with 1000, and for converting hour per hour into per second we need to divide by 3600. Okay, so the we'll get the value in joule per second. Then inside heat transfer coefficient is provided, that is nothing but H suffix I is equal to 120 watt per meter square degree Celsius. Outside heat transfer coefficient is provided, that is nothing but H naught is equal to 195 watt per meter square degree Celsius. Then the hot water inlet temperature, the exhaust gas inlet temperature is provided. The inlet and outlet temperatures of hot fluid is provided as 450 and 250. Therefore, TH1 is equal to 450 degrees Celsius and TH2 is equal to 250 degrees Celsius. Also, the air temperature, inlet and outlet temperatures are provided. That is nothing but cold fluid temperatures are provided. So TC1 is equal to 60 degrees Celsius, that is the inlet temperature, and TC2 is equal to 120 degrees Celsius. Then the inlet diameter of a tube is provided as 50 mm, that is equal to 0.05 meter, and outlet tube diameter is provided as 60 mm, that is nothing but 0.06 meter. Now here the heat exchanger type is provided in the statement, that is nothing but parallel flow heat exchanger. Okay, so we have to consider the parallel flow heat exchanger only. Now here we have to find out the length of tube. Okay, so then solution we need to start with the parallel flow arrangement. So here we have drawn the temperature distribution diagram for the parallel flow heat exchanger. Okay, so the hot fluid, exhaust gases are hot fluid, and the air is nothing but cold fluid. Okay, so hot fluid inlet temperature is TH1 is equal to 450, and it is a parallel flow heat exchanger. So on the same side the cold fluid inlet should be there. So cold fluid inlet temperature is a 60 degrees Celsius. As the heat is transferred by this particular exhaust gases to the air, the hot fluid temperature, that is nothing but exhaust gas temperature, goes on decreasing, and we will get the outlet exhaust gas temperature as TH2 is equal to 250 degrees Celsius. On the same side we will get the outlet fluid temperature for the cold fluid, that is nothing but air, that is Tc2 is equal to 120 degrees Celsius. In each and every case, we need to draw this particular temperature distribution diagram to understand the type of the flow. So parallel flow, for that purpose both the fluids are flowing in the same direction. Okay. So in case of a parallel flow, we know that logarithmic mean temperature difference, that is nothing but LMTD, can be written as theta m is equal to theta 2 minus theta 1 divided by ln of theta 2 divided by theta 1. Or also we can write this equation as a theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by ln of theta 1 divided by theta 2. Here, in case of a parallel flow heat exchanger, we need to consider theta 1 is equal to Th1 minus Tc1 and theta 2 is equal to Th2 minus Tc2. Okay. So here we have considered theta 1 is equal to Th1 minus Tc1 is equal to 450 minus 60 is equal to 390 degrees Celsius. In the same manner, theta 2 is equal to Th2 minus Tc2 is equal to 250 minus 120. We will get 130 degrees Celsius. So the logarithmic mean temperature difference theta m is equal to theta 1 is 390 minus theta 2 is 130, ln of 390 divided by 130. So logarithmic mean temperature difference we will get equal to 236.66 degrees Celsius. Now next we have to determine the overall heat transfer coefficient based on outer surface area, that is nothing but U naught. Okay. So for the U naught based on our outer surface area, we know the equation U naught is equal to 1 whole divided by R naught divided by Ri multiply by 1 divided by H suffix I, that is the heat transfer coefficient on an inner surface or inside the tube, plus R naught into bracket ln of R naught divided by Ri divided by K. So this particular second term is nothing but the tube resistance for the conduction. Okay. And plus 1 divided by H naught. H naught is the heat transfer coefficient outside the tube. Okay. So in the problem only, in a problem statement it is given that neglect the tube resistance. Okay. So this second term should be removed from the overall heat transfer coefficient equation. Okay. So this is the tube resistance. So we have to modify the equation in this manner. U naught is equal to 1 divided by R naught divided by Ri multiply by 1 divided by H suffix I plus 1 divided by H naught. So next is we have to put up the values of all the parameters. So U naught is equal to 1 divided by 0.03, as D naught is 0.06. So the R naught becomes 0.03 and Ri is 0.025 multiply by 1 upon Hi. Hi value is provided 120 watt per meter square degree Celsius. So multiply by 1 divided by 120 plus H naught value is 195. So 1 upon H naught becomes 1 divided by 195. So U naught is equal to 1 divided by 0.015128. So U naught will get, that is the overall heat transfer coefficient based on outer surface. U naught is equal to 66.10 watt per meter square degree Celsius. Now we get the theta naught. Okay, theta m, that is nothing but LMTD U naught. Now next is nothing but we have to find out the Q. Okay, that is nothing but heat transfer rate. Okay, so we know the equation for the Q. Actually Q is provided as a given quantity. We need to find out the total length required to transfer that amount of heat. So Q is provided as a given quantity. We know the relation for the heat transfer, total heat transfer rate by heat exchanger, that is total heat transfer rate is given as Q is equal to U naught multiply by A naught multiply by theta m. Now here overall heat transfer coefficient we have taken on the basis of outer surface. So we need to consider the outer surface area only to calculate the heat transfer rate. So Q is equal to U naught multiply by A naught multiply by theta m, where the theta m is nothing but logarithmic mean temperature difference. So the A naught is the surface area. Okay, so area for the tube we can write as 2 pi RL. Here we have considered the outer surface area. So for that purpose we can write 2 pi R naught L or pi dl also. So Q is equal to U naught multiplied by 2 pi R naught L multiplied by theta suffix m. So Q equal to we get the value of U naught 66.10 multiplied by 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by R naught value is provided as a given quantity 0.03 multiplied by L. L we need to find out here. Okay, multiply by, and theta m value we have calculated on the basis of LMTD method 236.66. So we will do the calculation, and after calculation actually Q is a given quantity, so 1,55,450 kilojoule per hour it is provided. So we have to convert that it into a joule per second. So for that purpose we have multiply with 1000 and divided by 3600. Okay, so is equal to 2948.67 multiplied by N. So by rearranging we'll get the length of the heat exchanger or length of the tube equal to 14.6444 meter. Okay, so that is our first problem. Okay, so the second problem is a counter flow double pipe heat exchanger using hot water at the rate of 10,500 kg per hour. The steam enters the heat exchanger at 180 degrees Celsius and leaves at 130 degrees Celsius. The inlet and exit temperatures of water are 30 degrees Celsius. The inlet and exit temperatures of water are 30 degrees Celsius and 80 degrees Celsius respectively. If overall heat transfer coefficient from steam to water is 814 watt per meter square degree Celsius, calculate the heat transfer area. What would be the increase in area if the fluid flow were parallel? Take specific heat of water is equal to 4.187 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. Okay, so this is the problem statement, and we can write the given data on the basis of a problem statement. So first of all, the counter flow double pipe heat exchanger using hot water at the rate of 10,500 kg per hour. So water flow rate is provided. So water flow rate m dot w, that is nothing but cold fluid flow rate. We can consider water as a cold fluid because its inlet temperature is 30 degrees Celsius, and from another fluid we have to consider as a steam because its inlet temperature is 180 degrees Celsius. So steam will be considered as a hot fluid and water will be considered as a cold fluid. So the mass flow rate of water is equal to 10,500 kg per hour. Okay, so it is in a kg per hour. We need to convert it into a kg per second. So for that purpose we have divided by 3600. So 10,500 divided by 3600 will get the mass flow rate of water in a kg per second. Now the temperatures at the inlet and outlet for the hot fluid and cold fluid are provided. Okay, so hot fluid is nothing but a steam and cold fluid is nothing but a water. So hot fluid temperature at the inlet is 180 degrees Celsius and hot fluid temperature at the outlet is 130 degrees Celsius. Then cold fluid inlet temperature at the inlet is 30 degrees Celsius and cold fluid outlet temperature is 80 degrees Celsius. Then overall heat transfer coefficient. If the overall heat transfer coefficient from steam to water is 814 degrees Celsius, 814 watt per meter square degree Celsius, it is provided. So U is equal to 814 watt per meter square degree Celsius. We need to take it as it is. Okay, so the flow conditions are also provided. The counter flow double pipe heat exchanger. So we have to consider the counter flow heat exchanger. So for that purpose, in a counter flow heat exchanger we have to draw the temperature distribution diagram. So in counter flow heat exchanger both the fluids are flowing opposite to each other. Okay, so on one side if you are considering the hot fluid inlet is there, on that side the cold fluid outlet should be there in case of a counter flow heat exchanger. where the another side where the hot fluid outlet is there, on that side the cold fluid inlet should be considered. Okay, so this fluid is flowing in this direction, whereas the steam is flowing or the hot fluid is flowing in this direction, whereas the cold fluid or water is flowing in this direction. Okay, so in case of a counter flow heat exchanger, we need to consider the theta1 is equal to Th1 minus Tc2. Okay, theta1 is equal to Th1 minus Tc2, whereas the theta2 should be considered as Th2 minus Tc1. So in the same manner, we have calculated the theta1 and theta2. So theta1 is equal to Th1 minus Tc2 is equal to 180 minus 80 is equal to 100 degrees Celsius. In the same manner, theta2 is equal to Th2 minus Tc1 is equal to 130 minus 30 is equal to 100 degrees Celsius. So this is the special case where we are getting the theta1 is equal to theta2. So in that case, we have derived the special case number 1. Okay, so according to that, in case where we are getting the theta1 is equal to theta, so theta m should be considered as a theta. Okay, any of the temperature difference. Okay, theta1 or theta2. So theta1 is equal to theta2 is equal to theta, that is nothing but 100 degrees Celsius. In this particular case, the theta is 100 degrees Celsius. So theta m is equal to theta, that is nothing but theta m should be considered as a 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, so by energy balance equation, heat lost by the steam equal to heat gain by water. Okay, so how much heat will be lost by the hot fluid, that much amount of heat should get to that particular cold fluid. So that is the consideration in case of energy balance equation. Okay, so according to energy balance equation, heat gain by cold fluid, we can write it as a Q is equal to m dot C multiplied by Cpc multiplied by into bracket Tc2 minus Tc1, that is the change in temperature of a cold fluid. So m dot C is the mass flow rate of water, that is the cold fluid. Cpc is the specific heat of water, that is the cold fluid, and the Tc2 minus Tc1 is nothing but change in temperature of a cold fluid. So Q is equal to mass flow rate, it is given quantity 10,500 kg per hour. We have to convert that kg per hour into kg per second. For that purpose, we have divided 3,600. Then CPC, specific heat of a cold fluid, that is nothing but water, is 4.187 into 10 raised to 3. So this value is provided in this problem, but you have to mug up this value. In some of the problems, this value will not provide you. You have to mug up and you have to remember at that particular instant. Okay, so CPC, specific heat of water, is 4.187 into 10 raised to 3. Then Tc2, that is the outlet temperature of a cold fluid, is 80 degrees Celsius, minus Tc1 is the inlet temperature of a cold fluid, that is 30 degrees Celsius. So by putting all this value, we can easily calculate the heat transfer rate. Q is equal to 610.60 into 10 raised to 3 joule per second. Okay, also we know that in heat exchanger, okay, so total, in case of a heat exchanger, the total heat transfer rate is given as Q is equal to U multiplied by A multiplied by theta m. Okay, where the theta m is nothing but the logarithmic mean temperature difference, and in this case, in a counter flow heat exchanger, in this particular case of a problem, so theta m is equal to theta, that is equal to 100 degrees Celsius. So Q is equal to 610.60 into 10 raised to 3 is equal to U value is provided as 814 watt per meter square degree Celsius multiplied by area multiplied by 100, and we have to calculate the area required to transfer this much amount of heat. Okay, so that we can calculate by using this particular calculation. So area we will get 7.5 meter square. Now the second case is provided that when the flow is parallel, then how much area will be required to transfer this much amount of heat. Okay, so that is the second case, when the flow is parallel. Okay, that is our second case, when the flow is parallel. Okay, so for the parallel flow, we need to draw this particular typical temperature distribution diagram for the parallel flow. Both the fluids are flowing in the same direction. Okay, so for that purpose, the inlet temperature of both the fluids should be on one side and outlet temperature of both the fluids should be on another side. So theta 1 in case of a parallel flow heat exchanger, theta 1 is nothing but TH1 minus TC1, and theta 2 is nothing but TH2 minus TC2. Okay, so area required to achieve the same heat transfer rate as of a counter flow, that we need to find out. Okay, so theta 1 is equal to TH1 minus TC1 is equal to 180 minus 30 is equal to 150 degrees Celsius. Theta 2 is equal to TH2 minus TC2 is equal to 130 minus 80 is equal to 50 degrees Celsius. So theta 1 and theta 2 value we get by doing the calculation. Now we have to find out the logarithmic mean temperature difference for the parallel flow arrangement. So theta m is equal to theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by ln of theta 1 divided by theta 2. We have calculated theta 1 and theta 2, put this value in this particular equation. 150 minus 50 divided by ln of 150 divided by 50. So theta m we will get in case of a parallel flow heat exchanger 91.02 degrees Celsius. Again, we know that in case of a heat exchanger, the total heat transfer by the heat exchanger is given by Q is equal to U multiplied by A multiplied by theta m. U value is known, Q value is known, theta m is known. We can easily find out the area. Okay, so therefore Q is already calculated in case of a counter flow. Same Q we are going to take in this particular case. So 610.60 into 10 raised to 3 is equal to U value is a given quantity 814 watt per meter square degree Celsius multiplied by A, which we have to find out through this particular equation, multiply by theta m we have calculated as 91.02 in case of a parallel flow. Okay, so after doing the calculation, we will get the area is equal to 610.60 into 10 raised to 3 divided by 814 into 91.02. So area we will get 8.24 meter square. Okay, so in the problem it is it is also asked to find out the increasing area. So the simple in case of a counter flow, whatever the area we get out from that, how much increment should be required in case of a parallel flow, that we need to find. Okay, so in case of parallel flow we get the area 8.24 minus, in case of a counter flow we get the area 7.25 whole divided by 7.25. So the increasing area is 0.0987 in case of a parallel flow. So that is nothing but 9.87% area we have to increase in case of a parallel flow to transfer the same amount of heat as that of a counter flow. Okay, so that is our second problem. Then the third problem is lengthier one, and there will be different opinions related to this problem, but I'm putting one opinion in front of you regarding this particular problem. So if you have another opinion, please let me know about this particular problem. Okay, so the statement of third problem is, in a counter flow double pipe heat exchanger, water flows through a copper tube. Okay, and in a bracket 19 mm OD, copper tube outer diameter is provided 19 mm OD and inner diameter is provided for the copper pipe 16 mm ID, bracket complete, at a flow rate of 148 meter per second. Okay, so counter flow heat exchanger is there, double pipe heat exchanger is there, and through one tube is copper tube. Through that tube the water is flowing, and for that tube inner diameter and outer diameter is provided. The flow rate of water is provided as 1.48 meter per second. Then the oil flows through the annulus formed by inner copper tube and outer steel tube. Okay, so there is another tube surrounding to the copper tube, and the gap between the copper tube and steel tube called as annulus. So through that particular gap the oil is flowing. Okay, and that steel tube outer diameter and inner diameter is provided. So 30 mm outer diameter for the steel and 26 mm inner diameter for the steel tube. Okay, and the steel tube is insulated from outside. Okay, so the larger tube is a steel tube and it is insulated from the outside. Okay, there is no heat loss to the surrounding from the outer surface. Okay, so it is completely insulated. The oil enters at 0.4 kg per second. Okay, so mass flow rate of oil through that particular steel tube is provided as a 0.4 kg per second and is cooled from 65 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius. Okay, so the hot fluid will be considered as a oil because it is its temperature is decreasing from 65 degrees Celsius to the 50 degrees Celsius, whereas the water enters at a 32 degrees Celsius. Okay, so water inlet temperature is 32 degrees Celsius. Neglect the copper tube wall thermal resistance. Okay, neglect the copper tube wall thermal resistance. Calculate the length of tube required. Length of tube we have to find out, and for that purpose the given data is provided, and here the equation is provided. Nusselt number is equal to 0.023 into bracket Reynolds number raised to 0.8 multiplied by Prandtl number raised to 0.4. Also, the fouling factor on water side is provided equal to 0.005 meter square Kelvin per watt, and fouling factor on oil side is also provided. It is equal to 0.008 meter square Kelvin per watt. Okay, so fouling factors are provided and the equation is provided. Now this equation we require to find out the heat transfer coefficient for the water and heat transfer coefficient for the oil. Okay, then the properties, water and oil properties are provided. So we need to consider this oil properties and water properties to calculate the heat transfer coefficient. So properties are provided in this manner. Density in a kg per meter cube, for oil 850 and for water 995. Then specific heat in a kilojoule per kg Kelvin, for oil 1.89 and for water it is 4.187. Then thermal conductivity is provided in a watt per meter Kelvin, for oil 0.138 and for water 0.615. Then kinematic viscosity nu is provided in a meter square per second. So for oil it is 7.44 into 10 raised to minus 6 and for water 4.18 into 10 raised to minus 7. And we can write the given data on the problem statement, no problem. So first of all we will see the geometry. Okay, so what is the condition? Actually it is a counter flow heat exchanger. So both the fluids are flowing opposite to each other. So this is the inner pipe, water, or we can say that copper tube is there. Through the copper tube water is flowing, and this is a tube and tube heat exchanger. So centrally one tube is placed, that is nothing but copper tube, and large tube is steel tube. Okay, so for these two tubes, inner diameter and outer diameter is provided. Okay, so this is the geometry for the problem we need to consider. Then given data, we can write the given data on the basis of a problem statement. So inner diameter of copper tube should be considered as a di for a copper. Okay, C for a copper, di suffix c equal to 16 mm equal to 0.016 meter. Then outer diameter of copper tube d naught c is equal to 19 mm is equal to 0.019 meter. Then inner diameter of a steel tube is provided, di suffix x, di suffix s, s for the steel tube. Okay, diameter of a steel tube, inner diameter of a steel tube as a di suffix s is equal to 26 mm equal to 0.026 meter. Then outer diameter of a steel tube is provided, that is d outer, diameter outer, d naught suffix s for the steel is equal to 30 mm equal to 0.03 meter. Okay, so then the inlet temperature of oil is provided 65 degrees Celsius, we have to consider the oil as a hot fluid. So TH1, the inlet temperature of hot fluid is 65 degrees Celsius and outlet temperature of a hot fluid is TH2 is equal to 50 degrees Celsius. Then water inlet temperature is provided as a 32 degrees Celsius. So water should be considered as a cold fluid. So cold fluid inlet temperature TC1 is equal to 32 degrees Celsius. Now TC2 is not provided. So we need to find out the TC2 to solve the problem. Okay. So that is nothing but outlet temperature of a hot water, outlet temperature of a cold fluid we have to find out. Then the flow rate of water is provided. Flow rate of water. Okay. That is nothing but the velocity of water. It is provided as 1.48 meter per second. Okay. So then we need to find out the length of tube to solve this particular problem. So solution we will go. Actually, first of all, we need to find out the mass flow rate of water, because here the flow rate of water is provided. So on that basis, we have to find out the mass flow rate. So mass flow rate of water is equal to mass flow rate of a cold fluid, m dot suffix w is equal to m dot suffix c is equal to rho multiplied by A multiplied by V. That is nothing but density multiplied by cross section area multiplied by velocity. Okay. So m dot C is equal to the density of water is provided in a table as 995. Okay. So density of water is provided as 995. Okay. We have to take that density only. So m dot C is equal to density 995 multiplied by the area can be written as cross sectional area pi by 4 multiplied by inner diameter of a copper square, because water is flowing through the copper and the cross sectional area through which the water is flowing, that will be considered, or the diameter through which water is flowing, that is nothing but inner diameter of the copper tube. So for that purpose, the area should be considered as a inner cross sectional area. So we need to consider the diameter of a copper tube, that is the inner diameter. Okay. Therefore pi by 4 multiplied by inner diameter of a copper tube square multiplied by velocity or the flow rate. It is provided as 1.48 meter per second. So we have taken the same 1.48. Then we will get the mass flow rate of a cold fluid, that is nothing but water is equal to 995 multiplied by pi by 4 multiplied by inner diameter of a copper tube is 0.016, its square multiplied by 1.48. Then mass flow rate we will get equal to 0.296 meter per second. Okay. So mass flow rate of oil is a given quantity. Okay. It is given in the problem statement, which is equal to 0.4 kg per second. Therefore, the oil mass flow rate we need to consider as a hot fluid mass flow rate. Okay. Because here oil is losing its heat to the water. So the oil should be considered as a hot fluid. So mass flow rate of oil is equal to mass flow rate of hot fluid is equal to 0.4 kg per second. Okay. Now here we have to find out the heat transfer coefficient for the oil and for the water. Okay. So by energy balance equation, heat transfer rate, okay, equal to heat lost by hot fluid is equal to heat gained by cold fluid. Okay. So this equation can be written as Q is equal to m dot H, that is the mass flow rate of a hot fluid multiplied by specific heat of a hot fluid multiplied by TH1 minus TH2, that is the change in temperature of a hot fluid, is equal to m dot C, that is the mass flow rate of a cold fluid multiplied by specific heat of a cold fluid multiplied by TC2 minus TC1 is the change in temperature of a cold fluid. Okay. So here any of the equation we can consider. Here all the values of cold fluid heat transfer we know, that is nothing but m dot C, CPC, TC2 and TC1 all we know. So we can take this equation Q is equal to m dot C multiplied by CPC multiplied by TC2 minus TC1, and if you put Q is equal to m dot H multiplied by CPH multiplied by TH1 minus TH2. Okay. By considering the equation 3. Okay. So in this equation 3 we put all the values, because we know all these values. Here in equation second we don't know the TC2 value, so for calculating Q we should not consider this equation. For that purpose we have considered the equation number 3. So heat transfer rate or heat lost by the hot fluid, okay, equal to heat transfer rate. Q is equal to m dot h multiplied by Cph multiplied by Th1 minus Th2. So m dot h is a given quantity 0.4 into 1.89 into 10 raised to 3. This is the specific heat value which is provided in a property table for oil. So its value is 1.89 into 10 raised to 3 multiplied by change in temperature of oil, that is 65 minus 50. So we'll get the Q is equal to 11.34 multiplied by 10 raised to 3 watt. Okay, now in this equation here we need to find out the outlet temperature of a hot fluid, outlet temperature of a cold fluid, so which is unknown. So for that purpose we have to consider this equation, heat gain by the cold fluid, that is Q is equal to m dot C multiplied by Cpc multiplied by Tc2 minus Tc1. Because already we have find out the Q value, so only one unknown remain in this equation, that is nothing but Tc2, so that we can easily find out this particular the outlet temperature for the cold fluid. So by using equation second, Q is equal to m dot C multiplied by Cpc multiplied by Tc2 minus Tc1, we put all the values in this particular equation. So Q we have calculated 11.34 into 10 raised to 3 is equal to m dot C, mass flow rate of a cold fluid, that is nothing but water, we have calculated 0.296 multiplied by Cpc. So it is a given quantity in a property table for cold fluid, that is nothing but water, 4.187 into 10 raised to 3, because it is provided in a kilojoule per kg Kelvin. So we need to convert it into joule per kg Kelvin. So for that purpose we have to multiply with 10 raised to 3. So 4.187 multiplied by 10 raised to 3 multiplied by into bracket Tc2 we have to find out minus 32 is the Tc1 temperature. So Tc2 will get the equation for the Tc2 is equal to 11.34 into 10 raised to 3 whole divided by 0.296 multiplied by 4.187 multiplied by 10 raised to 3 plus 32. So by solving this equation we'll get the Tc2 is equal to 41.1499. Okay, so further we have to find out the heat transfer coefficient on a inside the copper tube, okay, and over the copper tube. Okay, so we have to find out the heat transfer coefficient for water and for oil. Okay, so for that purpose we need to use the correlation, Nusselt number correlation, which is provided as a given quantity. Okay, so here we have to remember this particular diagram. Okay, we have to draw this diagram so that we will come to know that which area should be considered or which diameter should be considered for the calculation of properties like Reynolds number and Nusselt number. Okay, so here now Reynolds number for the flow of water through a copper tube. First of all we have to find out the Reynolds number for the flow of water through copper tube. Okay, so Reynolds number equation we already know that rho Vd divided by mu. Here the rho is nothing but density of the fluid, V is the velocity of the fluid or the flow rate of the fluid, D is the hydraulic diameter of the tube. Okay, hydraulic diameter of the tube, divided by mu is the dynamic viscosity. Now we know that mu divided by rho, okay, mu divided by rho, that is nothing but dynamic viscosity divided by density is nothing but kinematic viscosity. So we have changed this equation as V multiplied by di suffix c, that is nothing but, now in this case if the water is flowing through this particular tube, copper tube, okay, now the area available for the copper tube is based on inner diameter, okay, is based on inner diameter, and this much diameter available for the flow of the fluid. So we have to consider the hydraulic diameter flow through the tube. For the flow through tube, hydraulic diameter should be considered as a inner diameter of the tube. Okay, now for the same purpose the hydraulic diameter in this case we have to consider as the inner diameter of a copper tube. So our equation becomes V multiplied by d suffix I, that is the inner diameter of a copper tube, divided by nu. Nu is nothing but what? Mu divided by rho is nothing but nu. Nu is nothing but kinematic viscosity. So the rho value is provided for the water in a the velocity is provided as a given data, then diameter is also provided as a given data, and the kinematic viscosity value is provided for the water in a property table. Okay, in a property table in a given data. So we put all these values. 1.48 is the velocity of or the flow rate of a water, multiplied by 0.016 is the inner diameter of a copper tube, whole divided by kinematic viscosity is provided as a 4.18 into 10 raised to minus 7. So we'll get the Reynolds number. Reynolds number is equal to 56,650.71. We'll get this Reynolds number. Then we have to find out the Prandtl number. Okay, so Prandtl number is equal to mu Cp divided by K. Okay, so as mu value is not provided, so we need to find out the mu value, but the kinematic viscosity value is provided and density value is provided. So we know the relation for dynamic viscosity and kinematic viscosity. So dynamic viscosity is equal to density multiplied by kinematic viscosity. So here instead of mu we are going to put the density multiplied by kinematic viscosity. So Prandtl number is equal to density multiplied by kinematic viscosity multiplied by specific heat divided by thermal conductivity. All these properties should be considered for the water only, because we are dealing with the water. That is nothing but inside fluid which is flowing through the copper tube. So density of water is provided in the property table 995 multiplied by the kinematic viscosity value is provided in the property table for water 4.1818 into 10 raised to minus 7 multiplied by Cp value is provided in a property table 4.187 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. So here we have to take it in a joule per kg Kelvin. For that purpose here multiply with 10 raised to 3. Then thermal conductivity of water is provided in the property table. It is equal to 0.617. So after putting all these particular values of our respective properties, we will get the Prandtl number. So Prandtl number is equal to 2.83. Now we get the Reynolds number and Prandtl number. Now we have to find out the Nusselt number. So Nusselt number, this equation is provided as a given data so we can consider this equation directly. So Nusselt number is equal to 0.023 into bracket Reynolds number raised to 0.8, Prandtl number raised to 0.4. So Prandtl number and Reynolds number value we have calculated already. So just put up these values with their respective positions and calculate the Nusselt number. So Nusselt number we will get 221.31. Now from on the basis of Nusselt number we can calculate the heat transfer coefficient on an inner surface or for an inner fluid. So Nusselt number is equal to HD divided by K. H is nothing but heat transfer coefficient, D is nothing but hydraulic diameter, and K is nothing but thermal conductivity. We have considered the hydraulic diameter for the copper tube as the inner diameter of a copper tube, and we have to calculate the inside heat transfer coefficient. Okay, so inside the copper tube, that is nothing but water heat transfer coefficient we have to calculate. So H suffix I is the inside heat transfer coefficient multiplied by the hydraulic diameter of copper tube should be considered as a inner diameter of a copper tube. So inner diameter of a copper tube divided by K suffix C, that is the thermal conductivity of cold fluid. Okay, that is the thermal conductivity of water. So for the calculation purpose we have to rearrange this equation in this format. H suffix I is equal to Nu multiplied by K suffix C divided by Di suffix C. Okay, so all the values we know, just put up all these values. Nusselt number is 221.31. We put this value over here, multiply by thermal conductivity value is 0.615 for the water. We have put up this value over here. Then the inner diameter of a copper tube is 0.016. We have taken this value and we have calculated the heat transfer coefficient on a inside the copper tube. Inside the copper tube, that is nothing but for water. It is equal to 8506, that is nothing but 8506.71 watt per meter square degree Celsius. Now we have to find out the same heat transfer coefficient on outside surface of a copper tube, okay, or for the oil. Okay, now oil flow through steel pipe. Okay, oil is flowing through the steel pipe. Now what will be the hydraulic diameter? Now here once again this figure is very much important. Now this is the total diameter, inside total diameter and outside total diameter for the copper tube, for the steel tube. But out of that the copper tube occupies some area. Okay, out of that copper tube occupies some area. So this particular area should be removed from the total inner area of the steel tube. Okay, some area we have to, or this diameter, outer diameter, we have to reduce from the inner diameter of the steel tube, so that we will get the diameter through which oil is flowing. Okay, or the area through which oil is flowing, or the channel through which oil is flowing. That much, this and this. Okay, so summation of this and this we will get. So if you subtract this diameter from this diameter. Okay, so here we have done the same thing. So to get the hydraulic diameter, we have subtracted the inner diameter of a steel tube from the outer diameter of the copper tube. So inner diameter of a steel tube is 0.026 minus 0.019 is the outer diameter of a copper tube. So we will get the hydraulic diameter, or diameter through which the oil is flowing. Okay, so it is equal to 0.007 meter. Now we have to find out the Reynolds number for the oil flow channel. So Reynolds number is equal to rho VD divided by mu, where rho is the density, V is the velocity, D is the diameter, divided by mu is the dynamic viscosity. Now here the diameter of a steel tube we have to consider as a hydraulic diameter. So velocity, mu, we know that mu divided by rho, that is nothing but dynamic viscosity divided by density is nothing but kinematic viscosity. So here we have put up the kinematic viscosity. So the equation becomes V multiplied by dH divided by nu. Okay, so here we have to calculate the oil flow rate or the oil velocity. So mass flow rate for the oil is provided, and the density of oil is as a given quantity, and area we can calculate by using the diameters. So from this particular equation we will get the velocity for the oil. So mass flow rate is equal to rho multiplied by cross sectional area multiplied by velocity. So mass flow rate of oil is equal to density of oil multiplied by pi by 4 into bracket inner diameter of a steel tube bracket square minus outer diameter of copper tube square bracket complete multiplied by velocity. So from this equation we can easily find out the velocity for the oil. So velocity is equal to mass flow rate of oil divided by density of oil multiplied by pi by 4 into bracket inside diameter of a steel tube square minus outside diameter of a copper tube square. So we'll get the velocity of oil is equal to 0.4 divided by 850 into pi by 4 into bracket 0.026 square minus 0.019 square. Okay, so velocity will get equal to V is equal to 1.90 meter per second. So by using same velocity we can calculate the Reynolds number. Reynolds number is equal to velocity multiplied by hydraulic diameter divided by kinematic viscosity. So velocity is 1.90, hydraulic diameter is 0.07 divided by 7.44 into 10 raised to minus 6 is the kinematic viscosity. So we'll get the Reynolds number as 1792.11. Now we have to calculate the Prandtl number for the oil. So Prandtl number is equal to mu Cp divided by K. Mu is nothing but rho into kinematic viscosity, density into kinematic viscosity, of the oil, multiply by Cp divided by K. Now we'll get the Prandtl number is equal to 850 into 7.44 into 10 raised to minus 6 multiply by 1.89 into 10 raised to 3. This is the Cp value, whole divided by the thermal conductivity of the oil is 0.138. So from Prandtl number we will get 86.61. Now we know the relation is provided for the Nusselt number. Nusselt number is equal to 0.023 into bracket Reynolds number raised to 0.8 and Prandtl number raised to 0.4. So just put up the values of Reynolds number and Prandtl number at their positions in the equation. So we'll get the Nusselt number is equal to 0.023 into bracket 1792.11 raised to 0.8 into bracket 86.61 raised to 0.4. So Nusselt number is equal to 0.023 into 400.58 multiplied by 5.95. So Nusselt number we will get 54.88. So this is the Nusselt number for the oil. So on that basis we can calculate the heat transfer coefficient for the oil. So outer heat transfer coefficient H0 will be calculated by using this equation for the Nusselt number. So H0 Nusselt number is equal to H0 multiplied by hydraulic diameter divided by thermal conductivity of the oil. So H0 we have to calculate, that is nothing but the heat transfer coefficient for the oil we need to calculate, multiply by hydraulic diameter divided by K. So H0 is equal to Nusselt number multiplied by thermal conductivity of oil divided by hydraulic diameter. Therefore 54.88 multiplied by 0.138 divided by 0.007. So hydraulic heat transfer coefficient for oil we will get as 1081.995. So now we can easily calculate the overall heat transfer coefficient. So here the fouling factor on for the oil and fouling factor for the water is also provided. So we need to consider the modified overall heat transfer coefficient. Now overall heat transfer coefficient refers to outer diameter of inner tube is given as, okay. So here overall heat transfer coefficient is calculated based on a outer surface area of a copper tube. So U0 is equal to overall heat transfer coefficient based on outer surface area of a copper tube is equal to 1 whole divided by R0C divided by RIC, that is nothing but the outer radius of copper tube divided by inner radius of a copper tube multiplied by 1 upon HI. HI is nothing but inner heat transfer coefficient, that is nothing but heat transfer coefficient for the water, plus R0C divided by RIC multiplied by RFI, that is nothing but the fouling factor for a water, plus R0C divided by K multiplied by ln of R0 divided by Ri. So this is the thermal resistance for heat transfer through the tube, okay. And one term is once again plus RF0 is the fouling factor based on a outer surface, that is nothing but for the oil, plus 1 divided by H0. So this equation we need to consider. So H0 is nothing but the heat transfer coefficient for the oil or for the outer surface. So here in the problem itself it is mentioned that neglect the tube resistance. So neglect the tube resistance. So here from this particular equation, this is the tube resistance, that is nothing but R0C divided by K multiplied by ln of R0 divided by Ri, okay. So this is the tube resistance. We have to neglect this from the equation. So modified equation will be U0 is equal to 1 divided by R0C divided by RIC multiplied by 1 divided by HI plus R0C divided by RIC multiplied by RFI plus RF0 plus 1 upon H0. So all the values we have calculated. So just put up these values in the equation. U0 is equal to 1 divided by 0.019. Here I am taking directly the diameter because the radius is nothing but diameter divided by 2. So here also outer diameter divided by 2, inner diameter divided by 2. So 2 will be cancelled. So outer diameter divided by inner diameter. So directly you can take the diameters also. So diameter of outer diameter of the copper tube is 0.019 divided by inner diameter of a copper tube is 0.016, multiply by 1 divided by 8506.1, that is the value of inner heat transfer coefficient or heat transfer coefficient for water, plus 0.019 divided by 0.016 multiply by RFI, that is the volume factor for a water is provided at 0.0005 plus RF naught, that is the volume factor for oil is provided at 0.0008 plus 1 upon H naught, that is the heat transfer coefficient for oil. We have calculated it as 1 divided by 1081.9. So overall heat transfer coefficient, if you calculate, we'll get U naught is equal to 1 divided by 0.00245764. Okay, so after calculation U naught will equal to 406.89 watt per meter square Kelvin. Now we know that this is the counterflow heat exchanger. It is provided in a equation, in a problem statement itself. It is a counterflow heat exchanger. So for that purpose we have to draw the counterflow heat exchanger temperature distribution diagram. And in a counterflow heat exchanger, the on one side where the hot fluid inlet is there, on that side the cold fluid outlet should be there, whereas another side the hot fluid outlet is there, on that side the cold fluid inlet should be there, because both the fluids are flowing in a opposite direction. So in case of a counterflow heat exchanger, theta 1 is equal to Th1 minus Tc2 and theta 2 is equal to Th2 minus Tc1. So we know all the temperatures, so we can calculate theta 1 is equal to Th1 minus Tc1 is equal to 65 minus 41.1499. So we will get the value for the theta 1 is equal to 23.851. Same manner theta 2 is equal to Th2 minus Tc1 equal to 50 minus 32, we will get the value 18. So we know that the logarithmic mean temperature difference theta m is equal to theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by ln of theta 1 divided by theta 2. Put up the values of theta 1 and theta 2 in this particular equation. 23.851 minus 18 divided by ln of 23.851 divided by 18. So after calculation we will get the logarithmic mean temperature difference for the counterflow theta m is equal to 20.78 degrees Celsius. Now we know that the overall heat transfer rate in case of a heat exchanger can be given as Q is equal to U naught multiplied by A naught multiplied by theta m. Here the outer outer surface area of a copper tube we should consider, because overall heat transfer coefficient is calculated on the basis of outer surface area of the copper tube. So Q is equal to U naught multiplied by A naught multiplied by theta m. So after putting the A naught equation, A naught is the outer surface area of the copper tube, so that is equal to pi multiplied by d multiplied by L, pi dl. So here we have to consider the outer diameter of a copper tube. So U naught multiplied by pi d naught C multiplied by L multiplied by theta m. So all the values we have calculated. Q values also we have calculated. So only unknown is L. So after putting all the values, Q is equal to 406.89 multiplied by pi multiplied by 0.019 multiplied by L multiplied by 20.78. Q value we have already calculated, 11.34 into 10 raised to 3 is equal to 504.6915 multiplied by L. Therefore L is equal to 11.34 into 10 raised to 3 divided by 504.6915. So therefore L we will get L is equal to 22.46 meter. So that is our final answer. Okay, so here this is the very lengthy problem. So if you have any another opinion to solve this particular problem, so please give me a suggestion related to that. So these three problems we have covered under the LMTD numericals. Okay, so please do the practice and solve as much as problem, okay, so that it will be easy in final examination. Thank you.